In August 1953, the democratically elected Prime Minister of Iran was overthrown in a coup. He was placed under house arrest, tried for treason, and spent the rest of his life confined to his estate outside Tehran. The coup was organized and funded by the CIA and British intelligence. It took 9 days. It cost approximately $5 million. The United States government did not officially admit its role for 60 years. What followed, the Shah's increasingly authoritarian rule, the 1979 Islamic Revolution, the hostage crisis, decades of sanctions, the nuclear standoff, is still unfolding today. The 9 days of August 1953 cast a shadow over Iranian-American relations that has never lifted. This is the story of Operation Ajax, how it happened, and why understanding it is essential to understanding almost everything that has happened in the Middle East since. To understand the coup, you have to understand Mohammad Mosaddegh, and you have to understand oil. Mosaddegh was an Iranian politician of the old aristocracy who had spent decades fighting for democratic governance and Iranian sovereignty. He was elected prime minister in 1951, at the age of 69, on a platform built around a single transformative idea. Iran's oil should belong to Iran. At the time, Iranian oil was controlled by the Anglo-Iranian Oil Company, a British firm, later renamed BP, which had held the concession to extract and sell Iranian oil since 1913. The terms of the concession were extraordinarily favorable to Britain. Iran received a small royalty on production, while Britain took the majority of profits. British employees at the Abadan refinery, then the largest oil refinery in the world, earned vastly more than their Iranian counterparts and lived in segregated housing. Mossadegh's solution was nationalization. In April 1951, the Iranian parliament voted unanimously to nationalize the Anglo-Iranian Oil Company. The oil fields, the pipelines, the refineries, the tankers, all of it would become property of the Iranian state. In Britain, the response was fury. The Attlee government considered military intervention, but concluded it was not viable. Instead, Britain organized an international boycott of Iranian oil and froze Iranian assets. The boycott was almost total. No Western oil company would buy Iranian oil. No Western tanker would carry it. Iran's oil revenues collapsed. Mosaddegh appealed to the United States for support. He appealed to the United Nations. He appealed to the International Court of Justice, which ruled in Iran's favor. None of it mattered. The economic pressure was devastating. Initially, the Truman administration was sympathetic to Mosaddegh. American officials privately acknowledged that the Anglo-Iranian Oil Company's terms had been exploitative, and that Iran had a legitimate grievance. Truman was wary of being seen as supporting British colonialism. But in January 1953, Dwight Eisenhower became president. His administration saw the world primarily through the lens of the Cold War. Iran was strategically vital. It shared a long border with the Soviet Union and sat on enormous oil reserves. Mossadegh's government included members of the Tudeh Party, Iran's Communist Party. British intelligence, eager to bring the Americans on board, emphasized the communist threat in their briefings, while downplaying the nationalist character of Mossadegh's movement. The CIA's new director, Allen Dulles, and his brother John Foster Dulles, the Secretary of State, were persuaded. A joint CIA-MI6 operation was authorized. It was given the code name Operation Ajax by the Americans and Operation Boot by the British. The plan was to destabilize Mossadegh's government, manufacture a crisis, and install a government that would be friendly to Western interests, and restore the oil concession. Operation Ajax unfolded across 9 days in August 1953, and it involved methods that have since become a template for covert regime change. CIA operatives paid Iranian journalists to publish anti-Mossadegh propaganda. They bribed members of parliament. They hired street gangs to pose as Mossadegh supporters and attack religious figures in order to turn conservative religious opinion against him. They organized pro-Shah demonstrations and paid mobs to create the appearance of popular opposition to the government. The first attempt on August 15 failed. The Shah, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, had signed the documents dismissing Mossadeghh, but then panicked and fled to Rome when the initial coup attempt collapsed. Mossadeghh, learning of the plot, arrested some of the conspirators. For 2 days, it appeared the operation had failed. The CIA station chief in Tehran sent a cable to Washington suggesting they shut it down. Then on August 19, the operation resumed. Paid mobs flooded the streets of Tehran. Military units loyal to the Shah moved on key installations. The radio station was seized. By afternoon, Mossaddegh's residence was surrounded. He escaped over a back wall, but surrendered the following day. He was arrested, tried for treason against the Shah, and sentenced to 3 years in prison. After his release, he was kept under house arrest at his estate in Ahmadabad, where he died in 1967. He was never allowed to return to public life. The Shah returned from Rome and resumed power. The oil concession was restructured. American oil companies now received a 40% share, reducing British dominance but ensuring Western control of Iranian oil continued. For the next 26 years, the Shah ruled Iran with increasing authoritarianism, supported by Western governments who valued his strategic alignment over his human rights record. His secret police, SAVAK, trained in part by the CIA, became notorious for torture and repression of dissent. The memory of 1953 did not fade in Iran. It became a foundational grievance, proof for many Iranians that Western democracies would destroy democracy elsewhere when it suited their interests. Mosaddegh became a symbol of Iranian sovereignty betrayed. When the Islamic Revolution came in 1979, it came with decades of accumulated fury at the Shah, at the United States, and at the memory of what had been done in August 1953. The revolutionaries who seized the American embassy and held 52 diplomats hostage for 444 days were not acting randomly. They were acting on a specific historical memory. The hostage crisis damaged American-Iranian relations in ways that proved permanent. The United States supported Iraq in the Iran-Iraq War of the 1980s. Iran's nuclear program developed partly as a deterrent against the United States that had demonstrated it was willing to overthrow Iranian governments. The sanctions, the standoffs, the proxy conflicts, they all have roots in 9 days in August 1953. For decades, the United States neither confirmed nor denied its role in the coup. The CIA's involvement was an open secret, widely reported, extensively documented by historians, but never officially acknowledged. In 2013, 60 years after the coup, the CIA declassified documents that confirmed its role in planning and executing Operation Ajax. The declassified files describe the operation in detail, including the payments to mobs, the propaganda campaign, and the coordination with British intelligence. The admission came too late to change much. By 2013, the damage had been done and redone many times over. But the documents confirmed what Iranians had known and believed for 60 years, that their democracy had been ended not by internal forces, but by foreign intervention in the service of oil. Operation Ajax cost approximately $5 million and took 9 days. It removed a democratic government, installed an authoritarian one, and secured Western access to Iranian oil for another 26 years. It also produced, in the fullness of time, the Islamic Republic of Iran, the hostage crisis, the Iran-Iraq War, the nuclear standoff, and a level of Iranian-American hostility that shows no sign of ending. The architects of the coup were not thinking about 1979. They were thinking about 1953, about oil, about communism, about the Cold War balance of power. They solved the problem they could see and created the problem they could not, which is perhaps the most consistent pattern in the history of covert intervention. The operation succeeds. The problem it was designed to solve is solved, at least temporarily. And somewhere downstream, in ways nobody planned and nobody predicted, the solution becomes the next crisis. The shadow of August 1953 is still falling.